So, hello, Dr. Harriet Harden-Davies. I would like to welcome you on our SOPHIA studio.
Thank you.
And acknowledge how we are happy to have your expert input on our communication program on an issue that is very special, very important from our point of view. It's about the governance of genetic resources from the deep sea. I understand you are coming from the University of Wollongong in Australia.
That's
I
right.
hope I put the name right. Okay, it's just about the other side of the world.
It is, yes.
You came a long way and you put an excellent communication presentation in the Congress. It was focused, if I remember well, governing marine genetic resources in areas beyond national jurisdiction.
That's right.
I would start maybe by asking what are genetic resources for people that know nothing about this, please.
Well, actually, what are marine genetic resources? That's quite a big question. Mm-hmm. There's no internationally agreed definition of what marine genetic resources are, but if we look at some other definitions, like the legal definition of genetic resources, says that it's genetic material of actual or potential value. So if we think about what that might mean for the marine environment, we could really be talking about a very wide range of different organisms, from plants to animals, from microbes to larger organisms. But what it really refers to is either the chemicals that are produced by marine organisms, like bioactive molecules perhaps, that are often called natural products, but it also refers to the actual genes themselves and the information that is contained there. So it really is refers to a very broad range of different types of molecules and compounds.
Okay. As I see now, it is a case study for telling the devil is in the details. Because in the first place, everybody knows what it is. When it comes to definitions, then you have parallel research. You have scientists researching genetics and biology, and then you have also lawyers that should research some kind of definition to have a framework that is sustainable for long-term use.
Indeed, indeed, okay. And that's actually something we've been talking about just today in a working session with delegates from this conference. Is the challenges in the fact that different terminologies are used. Marine genetic resources is a term used in international law and by policymakers, but we don't see it very much in the scientific literature, and that will differ between biological and chemical literature. So we definitely need to talk more about definitions and terminology associated with them.
It will come in time, just like the electronic supports for our cameras now. There are lots of formats in the beginning, and now the thing is narrowing.
Yes, it will be an important issue for us to discuss.
Okay, and the practical question: what are those genetic resources? What are they good for? What do you think they will be used for? Yeah.
Well, genetic resources, if we think of that, it could be chemicals produced or enzymes or many different other things, even just the knowledge we get from them. It could have many different applications. Already we've seen examples in pharmaceuticals, in cosmetics, in scientific and industrial processes, perhaps that might need enzymes that can withstand extreme heat, for example, but also in scientific research itself, having exquisitely complex toxins produced by marine organisms can be used in a range of different scientific research processes. So the potential applications are very wide-reaching. But one of the issues that has been that's now recognised in the debate is that the potential to actually make commercially successful products from genetic resources can be a very long, complex and costly process. So whilst theoretically the potential is very big to have a number of applications, in practice there are many challenges.
Okay, but it is a brave new world that, in principle, that awaits development. It's something that we may expect big things to come in the future.
I think if we look at the trajectory for how the number of new natural products that we're seeing being described in general, the fact that deep sea natural products have actually, I think, almost tripled in the past few years, with the more we learn about the ocean and the life there and the different properties of different animals, the more we can think of many different applications. But it's definitely something we need a lot more scientific research to understand the prospects, work on national and international policy and legal frameworks to be able to actually do that work, and most importantly the levers are there to facilitate scientific research happening in the first place.
Okay, so we should look to them carefully and with due respect and not be greedy about other forms of use that may jeopardize that potential, in a sense.
And that last point about the particularly sharing benefits is something which is we've seen coming under increasing scrutiny, and there's really a spotlight on access and benefit sharing right now in the context of this larger legal process at international level that I think we're about to talk about shortly.
And that was an issue also that I would like to raise, because when we come to areas, when we are talking about areas beyond national jurisdiction, we have to put together a framework that materializes that potential, something that is equitable, as long as mankind can make things equitable. But when we came to areas under national jurisdiction, what are your views on that? There are a legal framework and the practical side.
In areas within national jurisdiction, we have the Nagoya Protocol on access to genetic resources and the fair and equitable sharing of benefits from their use. That's part of the Convention on Biological Diversity. Now, the Nagoya Protocol is recently coming into force. It's early days in terms of how practical it is and how easy to implement. One of the things that we have heard in discussions today is that there's still some issues to be ironed out in terms of how some aspects of a Nagoya Protocol type regime might be applied in other sectors, particularly in deep sea research, because we're hearing that it's very important to make sure that not extra burdens are not put on the research community, and that in fact we are making sure that these researchers can be facilitated in doing deep sea research. So in areas beyond national jurisdiction, the Nagoya Protocol is arguably limited. It does not apply in areas beyond national jurisdiction. So we have a gap in the international legal framework there. Genetic resources are not dealt with at the moment under the Law of the Sea Convention. So for that reason, there's a new implementing agreement that there'll be a preparatory committee starting next year to look at the development of a new agreement under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. This is about conserving biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, but one of the 4 issues that's being looked at as part of this process is marine genetic resources and access and benefit sharing. So as you say, it's the ensuring that we can put the right mechanisms in place for there to be equitable access and sharing of the benefits from genetic resources in an area that is common to us all.
Yeah, and I would like to put another question related to this. When we are talking about, let's say, mining or drilling for oil or so, to have those activities going on, we must put in place big structures that are fixed or relatively immobile, and so it is easy to see things going on. With genetic resources, as I understand it, it is much more diffuse. You can get genetic resources by taking your hand and picking them and putting in your pocket, so to speak. It is much more discreet. And in this case, how we can ensure that things are done properly, according to legal mechanisms. If there is a dispute, who does need to make proof of ownership? Is the one that has already the genetic resources, the collector, so to speak, or is the authority or the international body responsible for the area where they did come from?
That is one of the big questions that we are discussing this week and will be the topic of a lot of discussion in the coming months and possibly years. I think, as you say, genetic resources are a very different type of resource, if we can call them that, to minerals, which, as you say, is an extractive industry. You're looking for a couple of particular minerals to extract, and genetic resources is far more a process of science, a process of discovery and exploration. So, and I think one of the challenges is so much of science is curiosity driven to discover new species and new things about marine life. And it is very difficult to look at the current situation and identify where that research has a commercial intent. Yes. And this is a very big challenge in even contemplating trying to differentiate between pure research and applied research is something that nations were unable to agree upon in the negotiations of the Law of the Sea Convention, and I think it's something that will be very difficult, but certainly necessary to discuss as we go forth, because marine scientific researchers have been operating in the high seas for a very long time. There were already measures in place, many if not most of which are voluntary and common sense about data sharing, about environmental impact of scientific research, proactive measures to ensure that data is published and shared, that there's international cooperation, and that the marine environment is protected, all of which are provisions under the Law of the Sea Convention. So I think in looking what is already happening within the scientific community and identifying ways that we can put levers in to facilitate research and to augment what's already happening will be really important, particularly to ensure that we avoid hindering or impeding research, which already has a number of issues to do.
I fully agree with you, but just to finalize this, I think this issue of in practice recognizing the origin and the rights and duties of parts is something that should be central if we consider genetic resources use as a possible alternative in some areas to the appropriation of mining resources, mineral resources. Because ones have the property set since the very beginning. The other have some kind of diffuse character, and they have a big potential, but you must make the most to ensure that the potential realizes in the long term.
Indeed, and on that point, if in order to derive benefits from marine genetic resources, and we're talking about in order to derive financial benefits from marine genetic resources, there are many non-monetary ones, but to derive the monetary benefits, there's a number of things that would need to be in place, having the basics of marine scientific research for discovery, but there's also a number of sort of natural products chemistry steps and stages, and a number of complicating factors, things like synthetic biology, things like which will further complicate trying to identify the origin or perhaps understand where things originally came from and when things might be found in a number of places. So we have a number of very real challenges to deriving these things.
But it's also stimulating.
It absolutely is, yes.
No
but
problem.
a number of number of scientific, legal and policy barriers that we'll need to discuss. But a very real opportunity here for understanding how we can support scientific research and understanding what this, how we can in turn influence and support this process to conserve biodiversity in the high seas.
Okay, it's our final goal. Thank you very much, Dr. Harriet Davies, and I hope you the very best for your future research and for this exchange of knowledge that we are all thinking is the right way to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.